Good afternoon. The Government Operations Committee will come to order for March 21st, 2022. Do we have any personal orders? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Byrd, Calfee, Camper, Cochran, Dixie, Faison, Johnson, Lafferty, Crawford, Littleton, Rudder, Reagan,
Here.
Reedy, Stewart, Warner. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are no personal orders, since no one said it was, I guess we're going right straight to our calendar. Item number 1, House Bill 1976 by Speaker Johnson. We have a motion and a second. And for the members, confirm that you have an amendment traveling with this. I show drafting code 15023. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
No action required in this committee then. You are cleared to present your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1976 exempts a veteran of the United States Armed Forces who was trained and certified as a medic or a hospital corpsman from the initial licensure fee of the Emergency Medical Service Board. And I'm open for any questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 1976 to Finance, Ways, and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Bill
Thank
moves
you,
out.
Mr. Chairman, committee.
Item number 2 on our calendar is House Bill 1698 by Chairman Jernigan. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Jernigan, I show that you have an amendment traveling with your bill. I show drafting code 1. Get the right one here. Yeah, that's the right one. 15023. Is that correct, sir? Okay, no action required in this committee. You are cleared to explain your bill, sir.
All right. One second. Thank you, Chairman. Members, over the past year, I worked with the road builders and the pipeline stakeholders to craft legislation to help residential blasting. This bill will modernize and update the blasting standards by eliminating outdated blast vibration compliance options, restructuring and clarifying blast notification requirements, and providing administrative support for the market and industry changes. It'll lower vibrations for residential living near blast sites, increase communications with the public, and clean up and remove standards that have been on the books since 1975. With that explanation, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay.
In favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Chairman, members, thank you.
Next on our agenda is item number 3, House Bill 2733 by Chairman Wendell. We have a motion and a second, and Chairman Wendell, I'll show an amendment traveling with your bill. Drafting code 14653. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
No action required in this committee on that.
No, sir.
You're clear to explain your bill.
This provides a non-paid holiday for Veterans Day for veterans if it does not cause a significant disruption to the employer. And I accepted an amendment from the governor's office to clean the bill up, and I'd appreciate your support.
Members, do we have questions? Seeing none, Chair will exercise privilege. The governor cleaned up the bill. How, sir?
The employer only had to allow the veteran a day off on Veterans Day if it does not cause either an economic hardship or significant disruption, say a hospital or some type of healthcare provider. If the veteran had a job that would require their presence on Veterans Day, then the veteran would not get that day off.
Thank you. Other questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 2733 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Bill moves out to calendar and rules, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I be excused to attend the Anderson County delegation at 2:00?
Indeed. This half of the Anderson delegation agrees. Members, we have item number 4 coming up, House Bill 2346 by Chairman Boyd. We have a motion and a second, and Chairman Boyd, I show an amendment traveling with it. I show drafting code 15273. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's what I'm showing as well.
All right, no action required in this committee on that. You're cleared to explain your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee, House Bill 2346 is a piece of legislation that would require utilities in the state of Tennessee to develop and implement a cybersecurity plan. And the utilities would be natural gas, water, wastewater, and electrical utility providers.
The question has been called. Do we have any objections to the question? Seeing none, we're voting on sending House Bill 2346 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Next on the agenda is item number 5, House Bill 2242 by Chairman Ogles. Do we have Chairman Ogles? Okay, we'll roll that bill 2 spaces. Next on the agenda is House Bill 2069 by Chairman. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Halsey, I show you traveling with an amendment drafting code 15445. Is that correct, sir?
I'm sorry. I have 014721 that makes the bill, and then I have 15079 that was an amendment that set the effective date.
Were those rolled into one, sir?
I do not know, Chairman.
Hang on just a second here. All right, we have clarity. Your amendment should be 15445 that combines those two.
Okay.
So it's already on the bill. No action required in this committee. Chairman Halsey, you're clear to explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. About 7 years ago, this body passed a joint resolution that said at some point we would establish or try to establish a gold depository. So for 7 years, I've been working on that. And finally, after 7 years, there is investors who want to build it, staff it, maintain it. And it doesn't cost Tennessee taxpayers a dime. In exchange for that, they want to use the term Tennessee State Gold Depository. And in that process, the treasurer would oversee it. And the state of Tennessee could purchase gold bullion and place in the depository at no charge. And when it gets up and running, the state of Tennessee gets a revenue stream off of it. And it's overseen by the treasurer. It's audited once a year by the comptroller's office. And the depository will pay for the audit. As you know, gold has a 5,000-year history of par excellence. It's the world's only long-term surviving form of money. Gold represents the only financial asset that's not somebody else's liability to repay you, and it's the only metal not consumed, so you wouldn't want to put it in a bank. It's treated as a Tier 1 asset, collateral under Basel III, which you money people know what that means. The only thing that I know for sure it means, it's a term from the international banking regulators, and it means that it has a zero risk asset. I think you would agree that money and physical largesse have never been more pronounced in our nation's history than right now. $30 trillion in debt. The biggest thing that scares me is the next rollout from the Federal Reserve, which is going to be a central bank digital currency. And a gold in a depository is a hedge to all those things. Again, it won't cost taxpayers a dime. Investors will build it. Comptroller will audit it. The state of Tennessee can store gold bullion in it for nothing. So that's what the bill's about.
One last, let me see if there's any questions from the, all right, question's been called. Any objections? Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Would you like to withdraw that, sir? We do have a question. Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you bringing this bill. It sounded like the state of Tennessee could invest there. Would that exclude any body that held large quantities of bullion from using this facility as well?
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you for the question. No, it's open to anybody in the world, actually, who wants to store it there. Actually, there are several people in Tennessee who buy gold bullion and they have it stored offshore and are very, very happy to see something like this come their way. Texas actually built their first depository in 2018, and they're building a second one now.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 2069 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes, sir, you're recognized.
One comment. After last Thursday and my sorrow over my bill on the House floor, Jernigan came in here and said, "Why don't you get something passed?" I just want to thank you so I can stick my tongue out at him when I leave.
Enjoy. Next on our agenda is item number 7, House Bill 1900 by Chair Lady Weaver. We have a motion and a second. Chair Lady Weaver, I show your bill traveling with amendment number 14253. Is that correct?
Bingo.
All right. No action is required in this committee. You're cleared to explain your bill.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. It's very simple. It requires the Department of Education to create a fund to reimburse our teachers who receive a qualifying score on a required assessment. In other words, it pays for the praxis that they are required to take, up to sometimes $450 that a teacher has to pay out of her own pocket. And so this we would start the fund. And of course, when she passes it or he passes it, they'll be reimbursed. That's what the bill does.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Any questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 1900 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members.
The bill that we rolled from item number 5, 2 spaces, is now up. House Bill 2242 by Chairman Ogles. We have a motion and a second. You're recognized, sir. Hang on just a second here. Let me check my amendment. I show your bill traveling with amendment number 14399. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman, thank you.
No action required in this committee. You are clear to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. This bill would allow or instruct the fire marshal to promulgate rules in conjunction with the Department of Safety to adopt standards for multi-level commercial and residential high-density structures in the state of Tennessee to mitigate threats that include but not limited to entry to the structure from a vehicle laden with explosives or just entry into the structure. Members, not last Christmas, but the year before, we all saw the destructive nature of what can happen to structures with explosives and other means meant to hurt large quantities of people. Right now in the state of Tennessee, we've got some very beautiful buildings that are being built on street level, and you can literally go straight from the sidewalk into the interior of the building, and there's no structural elements whatsoever to keep cars from entering vehicles. So whether that be a food court, the interior of a high-rise structure that's got apartments and multi-use facilities above that, with modern building techniques, we're able to build cantilever structures with reinforced high-pressure concrete And though beautiful, it's really has the potential to create some situations that may be a grave risk to large individuals in the state. So this would just simply, this piece of legislation would simply instruct the fire marshal to look at that, study that, and adopt some minimal standards to mitigate massive structural collapse as a result of a vehicle entering the building. With that, committee, I'll take any questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. We have a question. We have several questions. Chairman Cochran, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative, and I know you touched on it just briefly. Give me, if you don't mind, a couple examples, like what you might have in mind that would be added to a structure to prevent this. And then also, could you speak to what effect would that have on the cost of construction?
You're recognized.
Right. Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for that question. Right now, you'll notice a lot of structures in downtown Nashville. You're seeing bollards that are installed. Some of these are simply aesthetically done, but I've installed lots of these in buildings. And when those are properly installed, there's more under the concrete structure than you actually see sticking out. So when companies and when business owners actually take a bollard and put 4 screws down to the asphalt or the pavement, it does very little to actually that it was intended to do. If those are designed properly and it's submitted during the construction process, they're actually sunk deep into the sidewalks, sunk deep into the side of the building. They're reinforced with steel. They're welded into the mesh structure. There's lots of things that can be done, but to actually retrofit a building after the fact, one, it's actually way more expensive because you have to come in with large core drills and drill the sidewalks and go down, and you have the potential to hit underground utilities, lines, whatever's under that sidewalk. And two, they're really ineffective. So though the cost is actually more than if you do it during the construction phase, the effectiveness is a fraction of what it should be. So it's simply, I've just seen a lot of buildings downtown the last couple of months being retrofitted for more protection. And this is more because of as much as we love the beautiful aesthetics of open, large spans of glass, in situations where it's on the street level and there's absolutely nothing to obstruct a vehicle entering the building, they can actually be very dangerous. So that's the reason. So I can't tell you what the final construction cost will be, but I can tell you it's definitely cheaper than retrofitting an existing building.
Follow up, sir.
Just one quick follow-up. Does anything in this bill require retrofitting, or is this just for new construction?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. No, sir, this is just once they adopt new standards, which they're going to here shortly. They do this every couple years, just going forward from that point going forward. So this would not cost anybody additional funding that's already spent on a structure. This would just be minimal standards going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to just confess, I'm not exactly sure what a bollard is. But it sounds like what we're trying to do here is mitigate terrorist attacks. Is that what I'm hearing?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Mostly, but as we looked at this more than anything, not more than anything, but another element that we really want to look at is focusing is the buildings that are built with street level access. Most buildings, there's some kind of embutment, impediment, either whether it's a structural steel element, whether it's exterior concrete wall, whether it's simply placing planters. The fact that there's being new buildings constructed in downtown Nashville that you can literally go straight from the road doing 60 miles an hour, jump a 4-inch curb, and then gain entry all the way into, say, a food court, or we've seen more so than even explosives. We've seen car accidents, DUIs. We've seen incidences, even just driver error, that have caused lots of fatalities or injuries across the country the last couple of years. And it's something that can simply be avoided.
Follow up, sir.
So are we studying this, or are we going to implement this as a building policy going forward? Is
You're
that the
recognized.
goal?
Thank you, Chairman. Talking to the fire marshal, they're going to put a team together and a panel of engineers and people that are experienced at this and have the understanding and kind of look at it and study it before any standards are implemented. They have the ability to do this now under their rulemaking authority. This is simply with other parts of the code. We as legislators do not usually come and adopt a simple say you know you need to put a plug every 4 foot in a residential structure. That they let the industry engineers and the industry professionals kind of recommend. They looked at other standard codes that other municipalities have adopted, and then they adopt those. But rarely do we get so specific, and that's why I wrote this very broadly. I didn't want to write a piece of legislation and tell them what to do, other than try to adopt some standards.
Follow up?
But adopted standards would translate into you are going to do this under penalty of law.
You recognize?
It would require some minimal exterior standards with high occupancy buildings. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Other questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, we're voting on sending House Bill 2242 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee.
Members, we're now on item number 8, House Bill 1686 by Chairman Williams. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Williams, your bill is traveling with an amendment. I'm showing drafting code. I'm sorry, hang on. Let me get to the right place here. Yep, drafting code 13884. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
No action required in this committee. For that, you're cleared to explain your bill, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and members. This bill is is known as the Colonel Thomas G. Bowden Memorial Act. It seeks to establish a pilot program for families who are caring for their loved ones as it relates to Alzheimer's in Tennessee. Some of you may know I lost my grandmother a couple years ago to Alzheimer's, and both my aunts and my mother were responsible for her care. We've proven that the longer someone can stay in their own home and get the care from their family members, that it defers costs that the state would have to pay in order to put them in long-term care, and it provides a better overall health environment for those who have Alzheimer's. What this bill would do is to start a pilot program for the next 3 years, which would allow 150 families across the state to be able to get respite care for somewhere to 3 or 4 hours a week, allowing those family members who are on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis to be able to go get their hair done or go shopping or go to the pharmacy for their loved one and those kinds of things. We found that in other states that they have adopted this, most recently in Florida. They did adopt this because and the results were pretty interesting. They actually spent an additional $15 million this year in their respite care program because it did keep these loved ones in their home for a longer period of time, and it deferred those costs. I'm happy to answer any of the questions. This would be administered through our AAADs in our communities and overseen by the Commission on Aging and Disability. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the members might have.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 1686 to Finance, Ways, and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways, and Means. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members.
Next on the agenda, item number 9 by Chairman Rudd. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Rudd, I saw you show your bill traveling with no amendments. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, sir.
You are cleared to explain your bill.
This was brought to me by my school administrator and school board members. For children that are either violent or disruptive in schools, schools have alternative schools or alternative programs to place them. In the event that these children, these programs are full or become too violent or disruptive for these programs, they could then teach these children for a period of time via remote learning, and this is permissive.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Question's been called on the bill. We are voting on sending House Bill without objection, we're voting on sending House Bill 2760 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Thank
Remember, Yep. Members, we're going to switch the calendar up a little bit here. We're going to be moving to the addendum calendar. House Bill 2152. We have a motion and a second by Chairman Hicks. And Chairman Hicks, I show you traveling with an amendment, drafting code 13848. Is that correct, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is correct.
No action required on that amendment in this committee. Actually, I show another amendment. Amendment number 15045. Is that correct?
It
Yes.
is.
That no action required on that one either. And amendment number 15081 added in education. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir, it is.
This committee needs to take no action on those bills, on those amendments. Mr. Sponsor, you are cleared to explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2152 is the Give Hope Expansion Act of 2022. This opens up new opportunities for students, especially in between the ages of 16 and 24. It expands the dual enrollment grant and begins in their freshman year. It also expands the Hope Non-Traditional Scholarship to students that changes the age from 25 to 24. House Bill 2152 increases the 2-semester award, changes all of that. It also, the Hope Scholarship Award, it increases from $3,000 to $3,200. And it also amends the Hope Foster Child Tuition Grant. That's the bill, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation by the sponsor. Do we have questions? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 2152 as amended to Finance, Ways, and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways, and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Next on our addendum calendar is House Bill 2184 by Chairman Lambert, carried by Chairman Garrett.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second, sir. Hang on here. I show your bill traveling with an amendment, drafting code 14169. Is that correct, sir?
That's not correct. It's actually Amendment 015118.
118. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay, members, our calendar is misprinted. It is correct, 15118, and it is traveling with the bill. We need no action in this committee. Sir, you are cleared to explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an administration bill by the Department of Safety, and it's a upgrade, overhaul of the interlock program that we currently have for folks that are charged in the DUI sense. So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions. Otherwise, I move passage.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? The question has been called. Any objection? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 2184 to Finance, Ways, and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways, and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our addendum calendar, and we will go back and pick up item number 10 on our regular calendar. And since that's my bill, I pass the gavel to Vice Chair Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was item number 10, House Bill 1895. We've got a motion and a second on the bill. And we'll pause momentarily. Chairman Reagan, you're recognized on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Check your microphone, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. As members of this committee will recall, we passed a bill last year about interscholastic athletic activity participation based on sex and requiring it to be based on the student's birth certificate. The bill applies to public middle schools and high school interscholastic activity. This bill requires the Commissioner of Education to withhold BEP funds or increments should a school refuse to comply with last year's legislation. In other words, it puts teeth into it. With that explanation, I'll stand ready for questions.
Any questions for the chairman? Chairman Calfee.
I have a comment. I saw on the news this morning where some person, I don't know hardly what to say, was a swimmer as a man and was 240 something in the world. Now, this is a little bit off track, but not, I want to explain, I want to support your, so now that that person is a woman, they're a world champion. Now, that's totally unfair to other people who were born a woman and competing. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess, my concern here is that shouldn't we leave this up to the expert in the field, the sports authorities? To my understanding, we haven't had a situation. Is that right? Have we had a situation in K-12 in Tennessee where this has been an issue?
Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I've had some incidents reported to me unofficially. I do not have any official reports of such.
Representative Johnson.
Yes. So it seems like to me that we should allow the sports authorities who govern these things to make these decisions because they are the experts, say the TSSAA for our K-12 schools, NCAA for college, Olympics committee. They make these type of decisions and govern their own sports authority. The idea of punishing schools as a full overlay on these things seems punitive. It's not considering each case individually and where someone might be in the process. And so I think that what we're doing here is making blanket legislation for something that really should be decided by the folks that govern those sports authorities.
Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Representative. I respectfully disagree with you. The idea behind the bill, as was noted by our colleague here, is that those decisions have not stopped unfair competition. And especially in the bill that we passed last year related to K through 12, it's important for us to, as a state, take a stand. And this is requiring us to take a stand by, as you said, being punitive. I will point out, though, that it is not permanent. That is to say, the withholding of the funds is only until such time as the school comes into compliance, at which time the funds can be released.
Next on the list, Representative Warner. Any other further questions, comments? Seeing the question has been called on the bill. All in favor of sending House Bill 1895 to calendar and rules signify by saying aye. The opposition, nay. Bill moves out. Please see the clerk if you want to be recorded. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we stand adjourned.